You've seen and heard the new. Now I'd like you to listen to more of the interview I had with its inventor, my friend Eric. In the following clip, Eric and I speak quite fast. Pay close attention. After the clip, I'll ask you a question to check your understanding. That's a traditional didgeridoo. This is something you created.
Yes.
So, is this still called a didgeridoo? What do you call it?
Well, I call it the new. I don't know if the name will catch on. Most people say chromatic didgeridoo because it makes sense, a didgeridoo with a chromatic fingering system on it.
This is the new. This is like the one and only new in the world?
This is the only one so far. I'm working on the next one now.
I'm looking at a one-of-a-kind instrument.
Absolutely, yeah.
I congratulate you. That's really cool. That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Here's my question for you. Does Eric have only one new? The answer is yes. He explains this is the only one so far. Let's write that. Eric also says, I'm working on the next one. In response, I say, so I'm looking at a one-of-a-kind instrument. Let's take a look at the verbs used in these sentences. Is, am working, am looking. We have two verb tenses here, but they're both present tense verbs, aren't they? Is, am working, am looking. We have the simple present and the present progressive. Why is each tense used here? Let's think about that. You know from our previous lesson that the simple present is used to state facts and general truths. That explains the use of the simple present in this first sentence. This is the only one so far, a fact. The present progressive is most often used to express an action or event in progress. Now that could be in progress at the moment of speaking. For example, I'm looking at a one-of-a-kind instrument. I said this, and at that moment I was looking at the instrument. It could also be an action or event in progress and it's unfinished right now. So there's this present time period and it's an open time period. An action or event is taking place and it will finish at some point in the future, but right now it's in progress and it's unfinished. Let me show you another use of the present progressive. This use is less common, but it's common enough that you'll hear this in conversation. As you can imagine, Eric is creative, handy. He's good at building things and fixing things. He likes to spend time in his workshop. Eric is always working on something. And his wife is constantly reminding him not to make a mess, like all wives, including me. Here we have two examples of the present progressive. We have a form of be and a verb in the ing form. It's a present participle. But along with the present progressive are adverbs of frequency, high frequency, always, constantly. We can use the present progressive along with these kinds of adverbs to emphasize the frequency of an action or an event. And these actions are part of the people's character. Eric is always working on something. His wife is constantly reminding him not to make a mess. These are habitual actions. It could be something positive, but often it's something negative. It's an action that annoys other people, like constant reminders from a wife.
Remember, we use the present progressive for actions or events in progress at the moment of speaking, and for unfinished actions or events in the present. We can also use the present progressive to express present habits or customs to emphasize the frequency, and we do this with the help of adverbs of frequency. Let's also review how we form this verb tense. The present progressive uses a present form of be and the present participle, which is the ing form of the verb. Let's use teach as an example. I am teaching, he is teaching, she is teaching, you are teaching, we are teaching, they are teaching. And of course, contractions are possible and common. Remember the spelling rules. We drop a final silent E before adding ing. For example, write. I am writing, you are writing, she, he is writing, we are writing, they are writing. And when a verb ends in a consonant-vowel-consonant pattern in a stressed syllable, we double that final consonant before adding ing. For example, sit. I am sitting, you are sitting, she, he is sitting, we are sitting, they are sitting. And finally, let's recall the negative form. We use a negative form of be in the present and then add the present participle. For example, I'm not working today. She isn't practicing right now. And in our short answers to yes/no questions, we use a full form in the affirmative, and often we use contractions in the negative. For example, are you studying? Yes, I am. No, I'm not.
Let's compare two examples. Do you remember the first one? I'm looking at a one-of-a-kind instrument. Eric looks happy. Do you see the verbs? Present progressive, simple present. Now, which of these two verbs expresses an action? The first one, I'm looking at something. I'm doing something. It's an action in progress right now. And the second example, looks, expresses a state, a condition. This sentence has the same meaning as Eric seems happy, he appears happy. Could we take the verbs seem and appear and place them into the present progressive? I am seeming happy, I am appearing happy? No. That's because normally non-action verbs, that is, verbs that express a state or condition, do not appear in the present progressive. Let me say that again. Normally, we don't use non-action verbs in the present progressive. There will be exceptions, of course, but that's just a general rule. The verb look is special. There's a small number of these verbs that can do both, express a state and express an action in the present.
Let's remember some important differences. Use the simple present to express present states or conditions. Non-action verbs are not normally used in the present progressive. And a small number of verbs can express both an action and a state. For example, look, taste, smell. Let's consider another important difference. Look at these pairs of sentences. Read them with me. It is difficult to make the new. My daughter is being so difficult lately. I sometimes have trouble with grammar. I'm having some trouble with verb tenses. They live in Boston. He's living with his parents. In each pair, which sentence has an example of the simple present? The first, correct? And what do those three sentences then have in common? They each express a fact, a general truth. That means the second sentence in each pair is an example of the present progressive. Now, what do these three sentences have in common? What do they express? These verbs in the present progressive suggest that something is temporary. It's not the usual case, but it's happening right now.
Let's do some practice. The following exercise will test your understanding of the differences between the simple present and the present progressive.
Practice. Complete the statements with verbs in the simple present or present progressive. We'll try the first one as an example. 1. In this statement, should we say Ben practices the violin or Ben is practicing the violin? Well, I'm asking you to listen. Listen right now. That means the present progressive is the better choice. Ben is practicing the violin. Listen, he's really good. Now you try number 2. Answer: Ben practices on the violin every evening. This is a habit. It's a regularly occurring event in the present. 3. Answer: Lynn, you seem so calm. Don't you get nervous before performances? Seem is a non-action verb, so we're describing a state or condition in the present. 4. Answer: Shh, I'm listening to a recording I made last night. This is an action in progress. 5. Answer: Raymond and Lynn are composing a song together. They're almost done. This is an unfinished action. 6. Answer: Raymond and Lynn usually have an easy time working together. Right? That's a general truth or what happens regularly. But today, for some reason, they're having some difficulty agreeing on which direction to take. That's something unusual. 7. Answer: Both Lynn and Ben are accomplished violinists. This is a fact. 8. Answer: Haley plays the piano just fine for a 10-year-old. You are being unfair with your criticism. Why are you comparing Haley to professional musicians? Haley plays the piano? This is an example of a general truth. You are being unfair with your criticism is unusual behavior. The speaker is saying you're not usually unfair, but with this criticism and this comparison that you're making right now, you are being unfair. Nine. Answer: Jessica is always listening to her favorite jazz musicians. You'll never find her without a set of earphones. This is an example of a present habit or custom, and it's done with such high frequency we know it's part of her character. She's always doing this.
Well, that's all for this lesson. I hope you'll continue to follow this series on verb tenses in English. Thanks for watching and happy studies.